Hey, number ones, welcome to Metatron's Academy. So today we're checking out a content creator that we occasionally make reaction videos to, and it's Rob Words, a pretty good creator within the language space. And he recently made this video, which is called Time Words Don't Mean What You Think, and I'm intrigued. So without further ado, let's check it out.
Time.
Time.
You're experiencing it right now. But have you ever taken a second to stop and ask, why is second spelled the same as second? Why is minute spelled the same as minute? Was an hour ever a hour?
Oh yeah, the unpronounced H's in English. Goodness gracious, you guys really need to get... you really need to sort that one out. Honestly. Because you do say an heir to the throne. You don't say a hair to the throne. But this is my hair. So, yeah.
And what exactly do we watch when we watch a watch?
Yeah.
Well, I've been exploring all of these questions, and the answers are all surprising and fascinating.
Is that his house, or is he in a museum?
Join me as we take a timely trip through temporal terms. It's time for another Rob Words.
Let's go.
I'm in what I think is a frankly beautiful watch shop here in Berlin, which just happens to be where I live. However,
I didn't even know. Guy lives in Germany? Does he speak German? I'm sure he speaks German. Come on.
and I hope they won't mind, I've actually brought my own. This one. This one was made in 1890 by my great-grandfather. My ancestors were watchmakers. But you know that a watch isn't called a watch because you watch it to see the time. A watch is called a watch because it wakes you up. The words wake and watch are, historically speaking, the same. They come from the same Old English term meaning to remain vigilant. The first references to a clock as a watch referred to alarm clocks. In fact, the word alarm comes from the French alarm, meaning to arms, to your weapons, the enemy is coming.
Wait, the Italian one, the thing is though, we don't say alarm clock, we say sveglia in Italian. It's connected to svegliarsi, which means to wake up. And allarme, we have the word allarme, but it's like an alert, like red alert. Allarme, allarme rosso, that's how we say red alert. And it has to be, yeah, probably connection is le armi, I guess, allarme. I wonder if we also get it from a French.
A shout that is sure to get anyone out of bed. The word clock itself is a fascinating one. The word clock has nothing to do with the face or the numbers or the hands. It's not because you clock it to see the time. A clock is so called because it has a bell. Clock is related to the German Glocke and the French cloche, both of which mean bell. In the medieval period, the way people knew the time was from the toll of the bell, not what the dial said, which, if there was one, was secondary.
Yes.
To this day, when we say 3 o'clock, we're saying 3 chimes of the bell. O'clock is of the clock, or
Ooh, I love that, man. The etymology is strong on this one.
essentially of the bell. This is from a 15th century last will and testament where dear old John Barrett of Bury St Edmunds says he wants his funeral mass to be held at 7 of the clock. So watches are wakers and clocks are bells. But now let's talk about time periods. First, second, by which I mean we're going to talk about second first. We'll do minute second in a minute, but just this second, let's look at second.
Man, the script. You see, that's guys, I'm gonna say it. I have to say it. This is what AI can't do. Because AI can make the jokes, can write your script, and you can use that and be lazy and do whatever and get the views. You can tell this was handcrafted by this guy's mind, and it's great. This is authentic content. Compare with AI slop.
First, on the face of it, clock pun, it is odd that we use the same word for a brief period of time as we use for the position between first and third. Just think about it, second and second.
Yeah.
But it stops being odd when you realize that the time period the second is the second of something. Here we have a creative representation of an hour. Now, we divide an hour into 60 little pieces, which we call minutes. And then we divide those minutes into 60 little pieces too, which we call seconds. Now, the reason a second is called a second is that it is the result of the second division of an hour.
That's incredible. I had no idea. Did you guys know this? That's amazing. I mean, of course, I know the Latin etymology of the words, but this is awesome.
Bear with me. So it comes from the Latin secunda minuta, meaning
Secunda minuta.
second minute, our minute being a prima minuta, or first minute. Now, while trawling through old uses of the word seconds, which is the sort of thing that I do, I found this wonderful one that shows that logic taken even further. It's from an introduction to algorism from 1539 and describes how the year has 365 days, the day 24 hours, the hour has 60 minutes, every minute 60 seconds, every second 60 thirds, every third 60 quarts, so fourths, every quart 60 fifths, every fifth 66th.
Good luck counting those.
And so forth infinitely.
Yes.
The third, fourth, fifth, sixth, etc. each represent a new division by 60, and all of these time periods would have been
truly tiny.
So you know how TikTok was recently bought by an American company? Since it shouldn't be a CCP spy app anymore, then I decided to make a new fresh account, just created it, and it's exploding. Look at this, 250,000 views. Now you might be asking, why are you making an account on TikTok? Because I think I can make a positive difference when it comes to the millions of youths that will be using it here in the US. So I decided, why not trying to do something educational instead of brain rot? So if you want to support me and you already have the app, please consider checking out the link in the description below to come and follow me on my Metatron history TikTok. Old school content, armor and weapons only, romance, samurai, medieval knights. Come on, I post twice a day. Go for it, go now, and leave me a comment.
By this logic, a sixth would be 1,777,600,000th of a minute, or 146,656,000,000th of an hour.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure 16th century clocks were that accurate. We're dealing with time periods that even now we would struggle to measure. They are so minute.
Here we have to have a computer do it.
Ah, what's this? Is that minute? Or is it minute? Well, do you know what? It kind of could be either, because those two words come from the same source. Both minute and minute derive ultimately from the Latin minuere, meaning to make small.
What's interesting is that in English, at least, you have a differentiation in pronunciation, but in Italian, we don't. Minuto is how we pronounce minute and minute. Now, we don't use minute that often in Italy. I would rather say piccolo, piccolissimo, minuscolo is a lot more used, but minuto it exists as a word. Let me double check it. In fact, I don't want to misinform. Minuto meaning Italian. But yes, unless English is effing with my mind. Yeah, it's a thing. So I'm gonna share it with you. So yes, as we can see here, I wrote minuto, significato, meaning Italiano, Italian, and it says of very reduced dimensions. Particles, particelle minute, so minute particles, frammenti minuti, minute fragments, scrivere in caratteri minuti, writing in minute characters, although then again, no one would really say this, but I'm just saying it exists. It exists, minuto, as an expression, but usually the one we use the most is minute. But there is no distinction in pronunciation, at least in Italian. Thank you. It was interesting.
In the case of the time period, it becomes the noun form minuta, i.e. something that has been made small, a small thing, and appears in prima minuta, the first small thing. Meanwhile, the word minute is an adjective form
Minutus.
of the same Latin verb. The two English words should probably be pronounced the same, given their identical spellings. However, the weird pronunciation of the first syllable of minute is thought likely to have been influenced by other tiny words like minor and minus.
Yeah, of course, it's the GVS, the Great Vowel Shift. It probably was pronounced the same in medieval England, and then it changed into minute and then minute. Personally, I don't mind it though, because it's useful, right? So that this way, if you pronounce them the same, then you have to rely on context to understand the meaning, which one it is. But if you don't pronounce them the same, even in isolation, you can recognize the words. For instance, in Italian, what we do is, while we don't have this kind of situation, this might be an interesting addition actually to the topic of the video. Of course, in Italian, if you write it the same, it's gonna be read the same. We don't have this, but we do have a little bit of space of maneuver when it comes to whether a vowel it's open or closed, and we do this with the e versus e and o versus o. So this oftentimes is a thing, like botte versus botte. The first one meaning when you like hit someone, and then the latter, botte, with a closed one meaning a barrel or wooden barrel. And we have a lot like this, like arena versus arena, one meaning the amphitheater and the other one meaning the sand. So Italian does that, and we use it even to differentiate verbs from nouns. So collega, right? Collega with an open e in standard Italian, at least, because there are some regions that don't make a difference and pronounce them the same. But in standard Italian, there is this differentiation. And so a collega with an open e is your colleague, but collega with a closed e is the third person singular of the verb to connect. So as I say, we do it with open and closed vowels in Italian when you really want a distinction. Of course, for the regions that don't, because of the accent, and either pronounce it both open or both closed in either instances, they just rely on context.
It goes way back to, here it is in a pronunciation dictionary from 1764.
Yeah,
Fun fact though, the first recorded usage of the word minute in English is not to refer to a period of time, but to a coin, one described as being of trifling value. And to this day, as well as representing 1/60th of an hour, a minute can also represent 1/60th of a degree. Indeed, a second can also be 1/60th of 1/60th of a degree. Here's Geoffrey Chaucer, no less, using it with just such a meaning. Okay. Understand well that these degrees of signs, he's talking about constellations, star signs, which rotate in the heavens, are each of them considered of 60 minutes, and every minute of 60 seconds, and so forth into small fractions infinite. He wrote that sometime around the 1390s. Amazing. Apologies if all this talk of degrees of rotation is making your head spin. We will move on in a tick. But before we do, I need to take a second to mention another second just ticking along in the English language. The word second, as in secondment. Despite the pronunciation, this is the same as our other two seconds. Secondment involves someone being literally seconded. It's from
Never heard of it in my life.
From a practice the British military copied from the French, in which, as this 1805 military dictionary helpfully describes, capitaine en seconde and lieutenant en seconde referred to officers whose companies have been reduced.
Okay, yes, of course. We have something like that in Italian.
But who do duty in others and are destined to fill up the first vacancies. We have borrowed the expression and say to be seconded. A second in command in the military is still sometimes called a second, but the differing pronunciation of second is simply a result of trying to replicate how the French say the word. Seconde. We're going to tackle the etymology of hour in around about a moment, but first, let's see how many time references I can cram into this next bit. Now, when I'm not time traveling, I like to travel the world from my own home using this video's sponsor, NordVPN.
Let's go.
NordVPN is second to none.
I'm going to watch it. And also make sure we get we will show his discount code and whatnot, but I am going to speed it.
Its VPN allows you to change your online location, meaning you can surf the net like you're in another country or time zone. That allows you to clock internet content that isn't available where you are. And when it comes to staying safe on the net, our glass runneth over, because NordVPN will disguise your IP, protecting your device on unsecured public Wi-Fi. For your overall internet security, on NordVPN you can depend. You lump in its Threat Protection Pro feature, and you've got the whole package. It's ticking all the boxes, scanning any downloads for malware, steering you away from dangerous websites, and blocking trackers and ads. What's more, you can keep your whole family protected, grandfather included, by having NordVPN on up to 10 devices. So to secure all these big benefits, go to nordvpn.com/RobWordsVPN or follow the link in the description to get an exclusive deal with an extra 4 months. That one's cheating a bit, on top. And you can essentially try it for free on account of NordVPN's 30-day money-back guarantee. So give it a go. Get protected.
Make sure you click on his channel and get the sponsor thing.
Period. The clock agrees. Now, did you know there was a period in around the 14th century when an hour was being broken up, not into minutes and seconds, but points, moments, ounces, and atoms? You can see it in this quote, which I showed in a recent video about metric and imperial units, because how crazy is it to see ounces as a period of time? It's because,
well, honestly, anything imperial related is crazy.
Because ounce and indeed inch both literally mean 12th. There were 4 points to the hour, and a point was 10 moments. So if you've ever wondered, a moment is, by my maths, which isn't always perfect, yeah, it's a 40th of an hour. So 90 seconds, which is rather longer than I was expecting. The smallest unit here is the atom. Why? Because the word atom comes from the Greek for indivisible. You can't get any smaller. Of course, it turns out that physical atoms are divisible with a bit of effort. But what of the word hour itself? Well, that too traces back to ancient Greek, to ora, which, as well as just meaning hour, could also mean season. So hours are effectively seasons of the day. But to the ancient Greeks, like many other ancient civilizations, an hour was not 60 minutes long. They used what we call temporal hours, or seasonal hours, that varied in length throughout the year. Daytime and nighttime were broken up each into 12 hours that would lengthen and shorten as sunset and sunrise changed. A daylight hour could be our equivalent of 45 minutes in the depths of winter, but 75 minutes at the height of summer.
I mean, it does make sense if you think about it. It makes everything more complicated, but does follow the light patterns. It's just good luck doing it in the Nordic countries.
But that word ora passes from Greek into Latin, from Latin into French, and from French into English. And while researching the journey this word took into our language, I came across this, in my opinion, mind-blowing quote. It says, "The H in hour became mute in Romanic." That's the late Latin that would morph into French, Spanish, Italian, and others. And says, "And though since written in French, Spanish, and English, has never been pronounced."
Yeah, never been pronounced. That's insane. Never. Although, yeah, in classical Latin, you would pronounce it. In ecclesiastical, you don't. In Spanish, it shouldn't surprise, because in Spanish, the H is never pronounced. It's hermano. It's not hermano. They do the aspiration with a jota, so the equivalent of the English J. And Italian, the H is just a decoration, like the things you put on a Christmas tree, unless you use it to create the K sound after a C. But if it's never pronounced, the H is, in fact, we call it mutina, la mutina, the little mute. So, like, you're not supposed to pronounce it anywhere. And even in Italian regional variety, dialects, languages, such as some languages in Tuscany that do have the aspiration, they use the G to do it, not the H.
Did you get that? In English, the H in hour has never been pronounced. It was never a hour. Not only that, it was never pronounced in French either. So when we borrowed the word from French, the H was already silent. We were borrowing silent letters. I think that's really something quite annoying, but it's something. Hour is one of many thousands of French words that entered English after William of Normandy, aka William the Conqueror, conquered England in 1066, seizing power from the Anglo-Saxons. So that raises the question, what was the English word for hour before the French brought over the word hour? Well, it's at the end of this very same note. It was tide, or as we now pronounce it, tide. It's the same word we use to describe the moon-led cycles of the sea.
That is so much better, though. Anglo-Saxons for the win. That is awesome. You should bring it back.
Or in words like Yuletide. Tide meant a period. The Anglo-Saxons also had the word stund or stound to describe a short amount of time, which was used to mean an hour as well, and is almost identical to the modern German word for an hour, Stunde. Honestly, I could go on 4 hours about how Germans tell the time. Did you know that in German, the time 1:30, halb zwei, doesn't refer to 2:30, but 1:30? They think of it as being halfway to 2 o'clock rather than halfway past 2 o'clock. It actually makes a lot of sense when you think about it, but must have made for an awful lot of missed appointments with English speakers. All my German friends always say 1:30, 2:30 to me to avoid exactly this mix-up. Another concept that gets lost in translation is the English term midday, which many of my German friends will interpret as being vaguely sometime around the middle of the day, which makes sense. But in fact, it means a precise time, doesn't it?
Yes,
Noon.
Yeah.
However, allow me to really mess with your head now by telling you that noon isn't 12 o'clock.
Ooh.
Not if we're taking the word literally.
Okay.
The word noon can be traced back to classical Latin, where it was nona
Nine.
and meant the 9th hour of the day. It's the same non we use in words like nonagon, a nine-sided shape, and indeed it's ultimately related to our word nine. So
And Italian nove.
which is the 9th hour of the day? Is it 9 a.m? No, it's 9 hours after sunrise, according to the Roman method, which was at 6 a.m. So noon should actually be 3 p.m. And look at this text from the 1400s. You can see how noon was seen as the midpoint between midday and dusk. If they eat at midday, she shall eat at noon. If they eat at noon, she shall eat at evening. Let me just run you through some more times of day because they're totally worth a look. Starting with dawn. This is a word coined by Shakespeare. Before Willie came along, it was known as the dawning. Morning, on the other hand, has made the opposite journey. Morn was sunrise and the period around it was the morning. Afternoon, as we've already discussed, should probably begin at 3 p.m, but has historically meant the period between your midday meal and your evening meal. I'd call them lunch and dinner, but I know that others wouldn't. Let's not get into it. Twilight is the between light. The twi is related to twixt, tween, twain, and indeed two. It's the light between afternoon and evening. Dusk is a reference to how dusky and dark that time of the day is. However, the word was originally ducks rather than dusk. I mean it. And night means, well, night. Its origins run way back to the ancient ancestral language shared by languages all over Europe and beyond. That's why so many words for night across Europe are similar to night. They all mean that dark bit that isn't the day. Which leads us neatly onto our next unit of time, the day. 24 little hours.
Yes.
Day is an excellent, earthy, Germanic word. Look across English's Germanic sister languages and they all use something that isn't a million miles away from the word day, especially...
Truly, we say giorno, which is, of course, related to jour in French.
If you look at how the word day used to be spelt in English. But the relatives of the word reach far and wide. It's believed to have stemmed from an ancient root that meant something like to burn, which makes sense, right? Every day begins with the rising of a burning ball in the sky. Several of our names for days of the week also testify to English's shared Germanic history, mentioning deities worshipped by the Anglo-Saxons before they went Christian.
Yeah, I talked about that recently, actually. My last, Thursday being Thor, Wednesday being the day of Wedden, meaning Woden, meaning Odin. It's fascinating.
Our days of the week are named as follows. Space rock, Germanic god, Germanic god, Germanic god, Germanic god, Roman god, burning ball in the sky. Together they form a week, a word that has its own mysterious origins. All the experts are certain of is that it goes way, way back. But what they reckon is that it may have started out as a word meaning a change of duty, a reference to the gods that each do their duty overseeing the days. There are a couple of words in other languages that back this idea up too.
Probably Akkadian.
Firstly, Latin has weekis, meaning turn or change, and secondly, Old Icelandic had a word, vika, which meant a distance travelled at sea, which seems quite far away, doesn't it? However, that distance is thought to have been calculated based upon how far you can get before you have a change of duty, i.e. a change of the team of rowers.
Yeah.
Could be related, right? So that's a week. But in the past, English had another name for a period of 7 days. Did you know that? It was a sennight, more literally a seven night. In Old English, it was sjovannicht. Sennight may have fallen out of usage, but its supersized cousin, the fortnight.
Yeah, a fortnight. People don't know. It's 2 weeks, but I think it's only used in the British Isles. Do they use it in Australia? Because I know they don't use it in America.
Has not in the UK anyway. I use it all the time.
Yeah.
And that is just a 14 night, a fejowertenenicht. We just lost a few syllables through a millennium of compound laziness.
Yeah.
You can understand why sennight fell by the wayside. It wasn't doing anything that week couldn't do instead. But there are a couple of timely terms that have died out that I would gladly resurrect. For example, we used to have a word for the day after tomorrow, a concept that currently requires 4 words to get across. The defunct designation overmorrow was far superior.
I agree. 1000%. I'll see you in the overmorrow. Man, it sounds like you're a freaking elf.
Look at this quotation from 1535 in the Coverdale Bible. Let us make our prayer unto God today, tomorrow, and overmorrow.
Oh, it's amazing.
Beautiful. Yeah. Here in Germany, they've kept their equivalent übermorgen, and the language is richer for it. You can even say übermorgen for the day after tomorrow. So that would be overmorrow.
How do we say it in Italian? So, oggi, today, domani, tomorrow, dopodomani, the day after tomorrow. We say after tomorrow, basically, dopodomani.
But I would settle for just bringing back overmorrow. Yeah. And then the day after we brought back the word for the day after tomorrow, we're going to bring back the word for the day before yesterday, which by that point will be today, won't it? Anyway, the word we lost was yesterday, or as it appears in the same old 16th century Bible, yesterday. By the way, precisely what the yester in yesterday means is a bit of a quandary, especially given that the Gothic version of the word, say it with confidence, Rob, gistrodagis meant tomorrow, not yesterday. Uh-oh. The to in tomorrow, and indeed today, is thought to come from an Old English construction. In the case of today, it meant to this day, and by extension, tomorrow means until the coming morning. Now, the moon has come up a couple of times in this video already as the driver of tides and the eponymous hero of the first day of the working week. However, Earth's celestial companion also exerts its influence over our calendars, because the word month means nothing more complex than a moon. In terms of their historical development, moon and month are essentially the same word, meaning the phrase lunar month, though necessary to differentiate from a calendar month, is a tautology. It says the same thing twice. Yeah. It says moony moon. A period of 3 months is called...
Yeah, even in Italian we say la luna, the moon, and I believe they say it in Spanish too.
...called a trimester, from the Latin for 3 months, and a period of 6 months is called a semester, from the Latin for 6 months. I only mention these because I used to be under the impression a trimester referred to a third. A 9-month pregnancy has 3 trimesters after all, and a semester represented half of something, like semi. That's why an academic year has 2 of them. But no, the mester bit is from Latin mensis.
Yeah. That one is... I understand how an Anglophone might get confused with that, but personally it sounds a lot like Italian, because Italian sounds a lot like Latin. So to me, it just makes sense. Semestre, a semester, 6 months.
Meaning month. A semester is 6 months.
Man.
10 o'clock. Now, where was I? So 2 semesters, 4 trimesters, 12 months, or 13 moony months, each make a year. The final stop in this time-travelling trip through temporal terms, and it is a doozy. Why? Because the clever folk who've looked into these things believe that the word year, which has been in the English language since before it was even in England, can be traced back to this Greek word here. Now, does that word ring any bells? Mm-hmm. Well, it should be chiming louder than Big Ben, because that is precisely the same Greek word that earlier gave us hour. We said it could mean a season, a gloriously ambiguous time frame that means English now has 2 words descended from it, one denoting 60 minutes and the other meaning 365 days, or 366 in a leap year. A year is technically an hour, and an hour is technically a year. How's that for a chronological bombshell? And with that, we'll end. Thank you so much to the nice folk at Ascania Watchers for letting...
Fantastic video. Loved it. Loved it. Anyways, let me know what did you learn from it that you didn't know. I think I made my sections clear. But thank you very much for watching, and thanks to Rob Words, of course, for making the video. Put a link in the description box and as a pinned comment for those who want to go check out the channel if you don't know him, and maybe watch the rest of his videos and content. Thank you for watching. Have a good one. Hold it there, traveler. Do you know what this is? This is my Twitch channel called Metatron Gemini. I play a lot of games, it's a lot of fun. So don't be a muppet and click the link in the description box. Look, I even put it as a pinned comment. What else do you want me to do? I made it so easy. Come on. Follow me on Twitch. See you there.